And so if you're new here, let me know in the comments below. If you're interested in finding out more, or if you like what we're talking about, feel free to leave a comment, send me a message. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. I'm kind of feeling this out as we go. I've created a blog, and I've got all the show notes listed in chronological order. And then I've got each video paired up as well. But if you didn't want to go check that out, don't worry. I can have the show notes for today just sent to you by Facebook Messenger. So if you're joining us on Facebook, it's really easy. All you got to do is type in notes in the comments below, and you got to make sure you're on the main post though. You got to click on the link, and then that will bring you to the page. And when you type in notes, we'll have it sent out to you, or you could always click on the link. I put a URL there, outstanding.video/notes. And then that also works if you're watching on YouTube. So again, if you want the show notes sent out to you, go ahead and type notes in the comments or click on the link, whatever you prefer, and we'll still have them sent to you. Or you could actually go to the blog too. If you go to the outstanding.video/blog, that'll just bring you right to the blog where all the notes are. Sorry. So today we're talking about, I put in the title, and I have it set for what must last forever will take just as long to build. So what do I mean by that? I mean, when it comes to step one, in this whole month, for the month of January, we're focusing on just step one. When it comes to step one, we're going to be focusing on recovery, addiction, mindfulness, yes. In a previous episode, we talked about relationships and having a relationship with ourselves. And so today we're actually going to talk about relationship with others. Now, when it comes to a relationship, well, let me back that up for a bit here. So when it comes to addiction, it was very challenging for me to even want to be in a relationship when I myself wasn't, I don't want to say I wasn't healthy. I wasn't, when I was struggling with my addiction, it became very challenging to even want to just get by, much less put effort into a relationship. So even in trying to be in a relationship in the middle of my addiction, I wasn't even able to focus on myself, much less the needs of another person. I wasn't able to maintain my integrity as a whole, rather than want to share that with somebody else. And when it comes to addiction, having those in my inner conflict, in my challenges to barely get by, it wasn't a safe environment even for me to be in. It was a very toxic environment. It wasn't healthy, happy, mindful. It wasn't even in a spot where I was able to function as a normal individual. And when I'm barely getting by, now all of a sudden I want to introduce a relationship on top of that. And so you can see the challenge there. You can see yes, there was an inner conflict that I had, but there was also this outer conflict where I would go into this relationship expecting that, okay, I would go into this relationship, but in addiction, I don't know if you can relate to this or not, but when it comes to addiction and recovery, there's this mask. And when it comes to, I would put on this facade, I would put on this almost show where I end up going and saying, with wearing a mask, and if that's what I'm showcasing to everybody, that's what I'm showing you, and that's all you know is this mask that I'm showing you. And then let's just take it a step further. Let's just say you like the mask, or you develop this connection with the mask. And now I'm thinking of that Jim Carrey show where he's like the mask, where he puts on the mask and he literally becomes this other person. But I'm talking about it in the reverse. I was this whole other person, but I'm putting on this mask. And then if you develop this connection to that mask, I would tell myself that you don't really like me. You're not really friends with me. You're just friends with the mask. You're the one that's in, you want to get to know this mask more than you want to get me. And so this addictive mind, this alcoholic brain, would try and convince myself that this wasn't a relationship, or I would tell myself that this really wasn't a friendship. And this is going to sound really weird, but I would tell myself that nobody would love an addict. Nobody would love an alcoholic. Who would ever want to have that kind of a relationship with somebody, the true real me? And yet that's what I would let make, I would let that creep into my brain and make decisions for me. That's the alcoholic brain, the addict mind creeping in and making decisions for me, when in reality, the opposite is true. Like, everybody is able to have a relationship. Everybody can have a healthy, happy, wonderful connection with another human being. And it's amazing. Like, this world of recovery has opened my eyes up to not only what a relationship is, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, but also what are the conditions around having a whole self. And before I jump into that, I want to celebrate that I really appreciate how open and honest you as my audience have been with me. I wake up every morning, and like every day this week, I've gotten this heartwarming messages from telling me what your thoughts are, what connected with you. And it really means a lot to me. Like, I take 10, 15 minutes out of my day to do this show, 20 minutes in some cases, but I put it on and I just put it out there. And I do put a lot of effort into setting up this show, but somebody left me a comment the other day, and they were saying, "You make this look easy." This is far from easy, my friends. There's a whole back end work that set it up to make it look easy. Almost like that mask we talked about. If I put all my effort into making this one little square look good, like right here. If you see this set here, the autofocus. If you see the set right here, this set looks really nice, but the rest of my room is a complete mess. I don't know if you can identify with that, but man, oh man, there's a lot of work that goes into this, but I have a lot of fun, and I want to share that. So I hope you're having fun with me. If you are, let me know in the comments below. That reminds me, I gotta go check out the comments. Hold on. Okay. Oh, actually we do. We have Kathleen. Hello, Kathleen. How are you? Thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate that, Kathleen. Okay, so where were we? Oh, okay, let me go talk about, I want to bring this over. Okay, so here we have, these are the notes. These are today's show notes that I'm going to show you here. This is what I've got for the WordPress blog. Okay, so for today's show notes, we have, and if you want to get those notes again, type notes in the comments. We'll have them sent out to you. Kathleen, I figured out the timing of, what was it? The day, the chronological time zone. It took me a while to figure out, but I was able to nail it down. I had to go into a setting in ManyChat, and then I just removed the whole calendar entirely. I just said, set the notes to being this specific day, so that I'm the one that's choosing the notes. What notes are being sent out, rather than letting ManyChat make the decision. Because as I found out, it was actually ManyChat that was the one that was changing the day. It wasn't Integromat. ManyChat was setting it to being a day ahead. Once it hit like 9 o'clock or something, it became this whole other, and it drove me up the wall, because I would try and change the time on Integromat, and that never worked. And then I figured out it was ManyChat that was setting it to being that day, and it wouldn't change. ManyChat would just sit and it fixed on that day, and it didn't matter. I couldn't subtract time from ManyChat, because ManyChat doesn't have a time. It only has a day. But Integromat has a time and a day. Anyway, so now I just have it set to being that one specific day. And then every day I go in and I just change the day to being the next day. And that lets me control what notes are being sent out. Anyway, that's my geeky note there about getting the messages sent out. But let me know if it works for you. It should show up. But jumping back into the step one, and when it comes to addiction and relationships, like, in full transparency, my addiction made me feel as if I was living this, I was always trying to distract myself. I was always trying to find a way to, and I've described it before, to like white knuckle my way through. I was trying to like barely get by. And when I'm living a life where I'm barely getting by, that's not really living. And if I'm not really living, and suddenly I'm introducing this whole other person and expecting them to be fulfilling to me, when I myself, I'm not really fulfilling myself. Like, I'm not even showing up to this relationship as a whole person. I'm showing up as this incomplete mess, this wreck, this train wreck that's slowly moving to this wall that I'm driving myself into. It was not really a healthy, happy condition to even entertain a relationship. Yet I would find myself in this string of relationships trying to find this fulfillment. I was trying to fulfill this empty spiritual void. But the only thing that can fulfill a spiritual void is spirit. It doesn't matter how many relationships you cram in there, or how many iPads you pick up, or how many these things, these material things, or these emotional things I'm trying to stuff it with won't work. And as a result, I would find myself in this string of relationships that was all being driven by this insecurity. I would want this fulfillment and expect it from somebody, but I wasn't in a position to be lovable myself. And I wasn't in a healthy, happy relationship. I look back now and I say, I wasn't showing up as a relatable person. And yet I had these expectations of this other person, and I would put on this mask and tell myself that they only liked the mask, not really me, but I wasn't really open or honest with myself, much less them. It became crazy. In all honesty, I would get to the spot where I'm living with my significant other, my girlfriend, and it was a life of convenience. It wasn't a life that was rewarding. There was no spark. There was no emotion. There was no love. And as I would try and find this fulfillment, but there was nothing there. And I was always upset when it never worked out. It's crazy, because the only reason why it didn't work out is I wasn't even showing up expecting it to be a relationship. You can see the catch-22 there. Let me know if you can connect with that, or if it makes any sense, or if I'm just rambling on. But if I myself personally am in this inner conflict, in this turmoil, and I introduce trying to be suddenly a supportive boyfriend while I'm living this life of distraction with alcohol and substances, and if I'm not myself a whole person that's rational and looking out for myself, then how am I able to go and be that with somebody else? I can't be, and let me just say, it never worked. Trying to be in a relatable person in a healthy relationship while trying to manage my addiction, which never worked. We talked about that before. And yet living in this world of convenience and never feeling connected to another person. It was a very raw moment of my life. I'm not really proud of those kind of darker moments, but jumping into what is a relationship then? What is a whole connected person? A relationship. Now I got this from Tony Robbins, and I love Tony Robbins. He's so empowering, and just listening to him. Sometimes I'll just put him on iTunes, and I'll put him on shuffle, and then I'll just listen to the whole random snippets all over the place. And so Tony Robbins will say, a relationship is a place you go to give. You don't go into a relationship to get something. Because if I'm showing up to get something, then that's not really a relationship. That's me being parasitic. If I'm going to get something from somebody, that's being a parasite. And when I close my eyes and I describe what a relationship is, a parasite is not one of those adjectives that come to mind. A relationship is where I want to be healthy, happy. I want to be lovable. I want to show up with everything, and I want to love with everything. But I can't do that if I'm avoiding this part of my life. If I'm avoiding addressing addiction, if I'm avoiding responsibility, if I'm avoiding being honest. And those are some pretty tough conversations. One, to have with another person, but also two, to have it with myself, to come to terms with that. I would describe this in my notes. I describe it as in the show notes as addressing the dark spots of my life, addressing those corners where I became really good at shining the light on certain things. And if I shine the light only on that one spot, there's this darker spot that I'm not addressing. And if I'm not addressing it, I can't be surprised if it's building up. And if I'm putting the mask on over here and not drawing their attention over here, and then that's where my addiction is living, breeding, and running rampant, I can't be surprised if I'm not healthy, happy, if I'm not fulfilled. And if I try and go out there and try and match that against something, if I'm just throwing, what is it, like when you throw things at a wall so long, eventually something will stick. And if I try and call that a relationship, that's never really going to work. And it never worked for me as much as I wanted it to work. You can see the dilemma there, right? Like it became crazy. I would try and convince myself that this would work, and yet it never did. I remember I was in rehab, I was in the treatment center, and I was complaining to one of the counselors that the girl I was seeing, she went, and what did I say? I was like, she ended up going and she was saying something, and she went away on a trip. That's what it was. And I told her before I went to treatment, I was like, I'm going away to get some help, and I'm going to need some support when I get back. But I need you to know that while I'm gone, it's for a good cause. And then I think it was like a week or two after I went to rehab, I saw photos on Facebook that she was on a vacation, and I was like, what? And it drove me up the wall. And in rehab and treatment, they can call you out. They can see you like thinking, and then they tell me what you're thinking, Jason. And then I shared what my thoughts were, and I just did a data dump of all the things that were running through my brain. I was saying, well, this person was doing this and she was doing that. I was calling her every name in the book, and I wasn't fair to her. It wasn't fair to me. But the counselor let me vent for like 10 minutes of just spewing. And then he ended up asking me, he was like, okay, Jason, I have a question for you. And I was like, okay. And he was saying, so this girl you're with? I'm like, yes. And he's like, do you have a solid foundation with this person? This relationship you have, is it built on a solid foundation? And then I was like, well, no. Knowing what I know now, no. And then he's like, okay. So Jason, is there anything else you want to talk about? And then that threw me off. I was like, holy crap, you're right. I'm not in a relationship that's healthy, happy, or willing on either of us. And we're both like two broken halves trying to like lean up against one another, and we're calling that a relationship. Again, if I'm labeling it as a relationship, it doesn't mean that it actually is. And so that kind of like took me back. That kind of made me feel like, okay, in the 10 seconds before I fall asleep, what is it that I want in a relationship? And I would make this list. And I would come up with this idea about, okay, I want somebody, I don't want to make a list that just says I want someone with nice genes, that's caring, that's fun-loving, that's adventure. Like, I don't come up with those kinds of aspects. I'll come up with a description saying I want somebody that's grateful. I want somebody that cares not only about themselves, but their family. They're willing to go and push themselves to their limits for chasing their dreams. And I also want somebody that's, helpful. Not in the helpful sense that they're willing to be helpful, but they're caring in that of themselves, that they're willing to help another person. And so when I come up with those real deep descriptions, the hard part is coming up with one or two or three. But as soon as you get like 5 or 6, that list just grows and grows and grows. And then after making that list, I came to the idea of, well, who would I need to become in order to attract this caliber of a person? And that's when I realized that addiction didn't have a place in my life. If I'm to have a certain kind of relationship or a certain caliber of a relationship with somebody, I'm going to need to 1, look after myself, 2, show up healthy and happy, 3, show up complete. That means addressing my weaknesses. That means addressing that, well, before I would consider this addiction to being something that would be holding me down, that was shameful, that was, this mental health component, like, I didn't want to tell anybody about my addiction and my inability to control my alcohol. And in that angst, that inner conflict, I would let that stop me. And then because of that, I would never share that with another person. I would never address it. And then everything else kind of built from that. And now I'm at a spot where, if I truly want to live a life that's healthy, happy, and wonderful life of fulfillment, an outstanding life, I'm going to need to go and embrace this wholeheartedly, that my addiction is a part of me. And I embrace that dark spot. And by embracing that, when I shine the light on it, it doesn't, it's not as dark anymore. Like, sure, my addiction is still there, and sure, I deal with it every day, but I don't let it make decisions for me. Now I go and I'm proud to say I'm in recovery. I'm an addict. I go and I deal with this, but if one thing is for certain, my relationship isn't going to be built on a shaky foundation. It's going to be built on trust. It's going to be built on appreciation, gratitude. And these are things that are going to last forever. And that was today's show title. If something's going to last forever, it's going to take just as long to build. And so that comes from taking off the mask. That comes from identifying that I have a problem. That comes from taking the first step. Now, I don't know if this relates to you or if this speaks to you, but I did want to share that and let you know that I'm thankful that you're here. I'm thankful that you're hanging out. And I really appreciate your honest words and the messages you share. But I want to go check out the comments here and see what's going on. Okay, Kathleen is, oh yeah, there's no more time zone issue. I know. That was really hard to solve. And then, yeah, Kathleen checked out the notes. Let me know it worked. Thank you, Kathleen, for double checking that. Oh, I want to show something. I'm trying something out. If this works. I brought in a video. I wanted to see if I could get a video of like how to go and leave a comment, how to leave a message. Okay, hold on. I'm going to bring this as an overlay. Oh, it's on the other side. There we go. And then, so this one here, I'm just showing, this is the Instagram profile. I'm going to call it Outstanding Live. And here I've got the link to the blog. So people, and what I do is after each one of these videos, I make a 1-minute video and then I record the 1-minute video and I post it. And the show notes are listed like right in the comments. And so over the past 23 days, I've put quite a few posts up. And then here's where the comments are coming in. And there's quite a few comments also in Facebook, but also on Instagram. And it's really interesting. I'm getting a lot of traction on the blog because our friend Susan helped me point everything to the blog. And then now with the blog, it's getting a lot of traction and engagement. And because of that, people are finding it and then spreading out from there. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's actually pretty cool. Okay, so thanks so much for hanging out. My name is Jason. This is the Outstanding Life Show. I'm having a lot of fun with it and I'm really enjoying this process. I did want to go and try something out for season 2, shorter versions of the show, but more frequent episodes. I also have hold on, I want to bring this up. I also have here we go. So with the blog, I also wanted to have something different where we have a gratitude of the day and an action of the day. So when it comes to today's gratitude is I'm thankful for knowing that an unhealthy relationship cannot fulfill a spiritual void. And so again, we mentioned earlier, the only thing that can fill a spiritual void is spirit. It doesn't matter what I try and fill it with. If I'm not showing up as a whole person, I can't really give that away. And a relationship is a place I go to give, not a place I go to get. All right, and for today's action of the day, today's action is, today I'm going to celebrate that my weakness is not my only friend, that I am a whole person, complete with my faults. Now that took a long time for me to figure out. Anyway, thanks so much for hanging out. I really appreciate that. Kathleen is saying this is a very cool idea. Thank you, Kathleen. Awesome. Anyway, I look forward to seeing everybody in the future episode. I'm going to take off, but I look forward to seeing you hopefully in another video. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.